2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. The Ravens off to an incredible start with a 59-10 victory over the Miami Dolphins, but lost in the shuffle with all this purple mayhem has been the start of the Maryland Terrapins. It has not been lost on me on Saturdays or Luke Jones or us here at WNST that the Terps have gotten off to a great start. Obviously, huge win over Syracuse over the weekend. You know, I get an old friend here. He did color commentary with Johnny Holiday for the better part of 2 decades. Tim Strachan joins us again after second year down now, but back with the Mike Locksley generation of football to watching football. And I sent you a text last year and had you on the show, Tim, and you said you're enjoying this more because you can drink now and have a good time on Saturdays for the first time in 20 years. And you've got a new child and you've got all this stuff. It's been a little while. How are you, my friend? Good to have you aboard, man.
I'm glad that people know I wasn't drinking while I was on the job before. So
well, some did wonder some of those seasons.
No, man, it's been good. It's been good. I miss. There's a lot of part of it that I miss. So obviously, game day, routines and people and faces and stuff that I used to interact with for the 22 years that I did it. But I've also enjoyed the last couple of years, as you said, just to be able to sit back, relax, spend some time with my family. I had an addition to my family, my son Luke, who's 7 months old now. So that was a big part of the decision. And
my Luke Jones thinks you picked a great name. So does his mom, by the way.
So, I've really enjoyed it. And now especially with Mike Locksley back, who I consider a good friend, someone I worked with and have known for the better part of those 22 years that I was a part of the program. Just love seeing what Mike's doing. And, the culture he's creating there and the more so than anything, the players that he's bringing in right now, because I think we saw in last week's, the last game's performance, just how good that talent is on the field. And good Lord, what a difference of having a quarterback makes for this squad.
Yeah, well, I guess it begins with Josh Jackson. But before we even get to that, I mean, you were bleeding hard for the team and been around the program forever and there for Orange Bowl losses and good seasons and bad seasons and Krivaks and, Vander Lindens and, everything that's gone on. For Locksley to come back and take this thing sort of as at rock bottom, another child dies on campus last year, which is all we talked about last year, and a Baltimore kid. You never want to push that under the rug. I mean, that happened. It's real. But then there's the turnaround of all of this and having to go out and play Big Ten football games. Who's going to coach the team? Who's going to let their kids come and play here? And all the money that's been spent there with Under Armour and trying to make it a football program and a football conference, that there's an exhale period, I should say, after a tragedy where the football doesn't matter as much as let's do this the right way and let's make sure we never have this happen again. But then there's the quietness of nobody's going to the games, no lights, nobody's talking about them, and then they go beat a ranked team 63-20. It feels like Texas sort of all over again, and it's gotten my attention. Josh, I know who their quarterback is. I know what the score was last week, which means I'm much more likely to sort of buy into the soap opera and watch this week again, right? I mean, and that's what the program needs. It needs interest. It needs energy, and for the right reasons, not what we've had here the last couple of years.
Well, let me see if I can. I have a lot to unpack.
I know you do. I know you do.
The first and foremost piece is that when the adults started making the right decisions a year ago and decided to move on from the last regime, there was no other choice in my mind than Mike Locksley for this job. One, because he was going to keep what talent was here. 2, he was going to bring in better talent than what was already here, and specifically from this area. And 3, he is, in many respects, and is going to be, if he's not now, a father figure to all of these kids. And because that's what he really does. That's what he brings to the table. That's why the kids love him so much. And I think that they needed a guy like that, right? They needed a guy that they trusted, that they loved, that they know is there for them. And I think Mike does a great job of doing that.
Is there something about him coming back in there and sitting in the seat where Durkin was and where, Fridge was, sitting in that office, that there are 80, 100 people around the program that know him, know his name, know
Oh, yeah.
what he was, and that unto itself allows kids to go to school, kids to play football, that there isn't that, can I trust this guy? Do I know that guy? Do I know this girl? Do I know that secretary? Do I know that trainer? Do I know this dietitian? Like, all of that is sort of built into it that has made, because I'm looking from the outside, and you know, Tim, when I talk, and I'm not to blow smoke your way, but when I want to talk Maryland football, this is the first Maryland football conversation I've had all year, right? So you're my first call to know what's going on around there, because I think it's hard to know what's going on around there if you haven't been there for a long time. I mean,
No,
you can't fly into any university, but let alone the University of Maryland, and say, I'm the new sheriff in town, we're going to do it my way. That didn't even work for an alum here last time around, right?
Right. And again, it just goes to show why Locksley's the perfect choice, because you're right. A lot of people are already familiar with him, and we all know just how familiar Locksley is with the University of Maryland, right? So I think all of those things played a factor in his hiring. And then once he's here, he addresses the elephant in the room. He does it in a very respectful way, along with Jordan's parents. He gets the team bought in, he gets the parents bought in, he gets the recruits bought in, and now here we are in his first season. And I've said it on your show before, right? Maryland is it's going to be very hard for Maryland to be a perennial Big Ten champion, in my opinion, and that's simply because
you've been to Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan and know how much they put into it.
I have, and I've seen those machines at work. Now, I do think Maryland can, from time to time, step up and play with those guys. And Locksley's the guy that can get the talent here. And as you'll see, they'll go down, and then I'm very confident they're going to put the pedal to the metal and throttle Temple as well, and setting up a huge Friday night game against Penn State. And then you're going to see, for the first time, probably since Ralph Friedgen, Maryland Stadium completely full and almost hard to get a ticket to, because that's the way it works in this town, right? We're in such a transient town that is competing for everybody's dollars, whether it's other pro sports, be it the Redskins, the Wiz, the Nats.
Well, hey man, the Capitals are rolling the puck out again this week, right?
Exactly.
Like it's hockey season
but you
already.
Also have Baltimore too. You have your Baltimore teams. You know, a lot of Maryland people are Maryland are Baltimore Orioles fans and Ravens fans and the like. But then you also have your downtowns and your nightlife. There's so much competing for your money that no one's going to really spend a lot of money on a Maryland football game until they're good. And then when they're good, they come out of the woodwork and they're going to be there. And if Locksley can keep this thing going the way that he is right now, that Penn State game in my mind is a pivotal game in the success of this year. And that could really spur a lot of people's interest and start getting a lot of people going out to Maryland to watch this football team, which, in my opinion, is one of the most exciting Maryland teams I've seen, again, since Ralph.
Tim Strachan is here, longtime color analyst, now no longer doing that and just sort of hanging out and once in a while enjoying an adult beverage with his football on weekends. Let's get on to the field, because I don't know that everybody has seen them play. I mean, I have been relegated to highlights. I was on the beach in Miami following this, on Saturday with my wife, using a beach day, and not thinking, well, Syracuse, Maryland, whatever. Syracuse pretty good. They'll probably win. Let's see what Maryland's got. Tell me about this kid Jackson. We got two Jacksons. Mr. Jackson, if you're nasty, I like to say. We got our own Jackson up here, but it's almost like the Jackson 5 running around here at this point. His passing ability, their ability to run the football, spreading it out, lots of names against a ranked opponent that was expecting big things this year, I think, at Syracuse, right?
Yeah. No, I'm really impressed with Josh, who's a graduate transfer from Virginia Tech. He's got the size, he's got the ability, he's got the arm strength. What I really like about him is his maturity at the position, right? He's running this offense like a veteran would. He obviously has a great grasp of it. He knows where to go with the ball. He's careful with the ball. He's not turning that ball over. He's getting the ball in the hands of his playmakers, and you can see what kind of playmakers that this offense has. I mean, I'm so excited. I was flabbergasted at the way that they throttled Syracuse offensively this past weekend. There was no stopping them. The only people that were going to stop them were themselves, and that's because whenever they punted, it's because they had some negative play of a penalty or or something like that, missed assignment. It wasn't something that Syracuse necessarily did. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how much more Josh can do in this offense. But I really think the credit still has to go to Locksley and the coaches. I've told a couple people that it seems like Mike, who was always ready for taking over the helm of a program, what he did in the last few years going to Alabama was like going back to finish his Jedi training. And I think he has come here now with not only the X's and O's to get things done, but a knowledge of how to run things right. And I think that that's now transferring over to the field, because I think he's getting these kids not just coached up on the X and O's, but how to do everything right on the field and off the field. And the discipline I'm seeing in these kids and the way that they're playing and executing on the field just goes to show the guy at the top is doing a great job.
Well, nobody shows their hands in college football, right? It's just a bunch of, the blue chip prospects and the pundits and scouts and whatnot and media types, and everybody's regional. Everybody's got a bias about them or how they feel about things. And then there's these weird cross conference games that get played this time of the year that sort of settle places, and we say, well, the Pac-10's this or the Big Ten's that or the SEC's that or the ACC. But for where Maryland is right now after these first two efforts, and look, the Howard thing, that got out of hand, but you can't beat someone 79-0 without having some talent around. Now you're going to see this Temple thing this week. Where is the ceiling of expectation in a season where if you are better than advertised, and Maryland was pretty good 2-3 years ago. They had a decent team here once before all the injuries and all the quarterbacks they've been through the last 3 or 4 years, and the coaches and the tragedy and all that. It hasn't been like Maryland's been Rutgers, you know what I mean? Like, It hasn't been horrific around here, Indiana football or whatever. But where is the level of expectation? Because to your point, the bar changes when you beat a ranked team. The bar changes a lot if somehow you run Penn State ragged here 2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah. So you listen to the pundits, you watch the Big Ten Network for the last few years. And I think that, those pundits are always going to say, look, Maryland's always got talent, it seems like. They always got guys that can make plays. They can be an exciting team from time to time, but they haven't been consistent, and they haven't been able to put it all together in order to play with the big boys, right? You probably got some Maryland fans listening to this on Cloud 9 thinking that they're possibly going to be in the championship discussion. They're not. Okay, not this year.
Well, they're going to win a lot of football games. I mean, they're going to have a gaudy record because Rutgers, Purdue. Then it's Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, and Michigan State. That's the month of November. I hope the pumpkin pie is good.
They're going to be a 500 team around. All right, give or take a few games. But they're going to give the Ohio States, Michigans, Penn States, and Michigan States some serious fits in games this year, if not a chance to win. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference in this team. From
if they could win one of those games, right?
Crushed.
Like literally, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, or Michigan State, they're 4 losses when the schedule comes out. If somehow they win one of them, play somebody tight in another one, and then lose the other by a couple of touchdowns because those are the best teams. And who knows? I mean, right now we think Ohio State's the best team, and we think Michigan's yesterday. Who knows by the time we get to November, right?
And defensively, we'll see if they get tested a little bit more, but I just don't see this team getting blown out like they have in the past. I think if they lose some of those games to those teams, it's going to be a little bit closer margin than what we're used to seeing, and that means that there's progress. And if Mike Locksley can keep the recruiting going the way that he has it now, he will for sure have the talent in the University of Maryland's football program to beat anybody, and I mean anybody, on their schedule, if he can continue to do what he's been doing so far.
You can find Tim Strachan at T13 Strachan. That's STRACHAN. And, of course, longtime insider with Maryland football and doing the color. And now, so what are you doing on weekends now? You got babies, you got children. You don't have to get on airplanes and go off to Nebraska and do any of that. But, like, you're still, especially with Locksley around, this is a big part of your life, Maryland football.
Right. Well, it is. And right now, I'm just another fan, and an alum and somebody who's behind what's going on right now. But personally, I did games for 22 years for Maryland, and it was an itch that I loved to have, and I wanted to scratch it again. So I had started up a podcast with some buddies, and I would love for people to come check us out. It is Redskins podcast. One of the shows that I do is a Redskins.
I have no interest. None. Zero.
You're in Ravens territory, but I'm a diehard, all my life, born and raised Redskins fan.
Did they lose again this week, Tim? That's right. They did. They lost again this week.
That's okay. But the thing that is really exciting for me, outside of doing some of the Redskins stuff, is we have a podcast show on the Washington Catholic Athletic Conference. We're doing some high school stuff. We're on Saturdays, not every Saturday, but a lot of Saturdays. We're going to be covering the WCAC team. We've done a couple of games out of conference thus far, and then starting in October on Saturdays, you can go to firstamendmentsports.com or go to YouTube.com/First Amendment Sports. That's 1ST Amendment Sports, and we are covering some WCAC action. A lot of people heard or saw about the DeMatha Gonzaga championship game last year that went viral. That was our first big time production. We love it. We're having fun. All me and my two hosts, Ken Marangolo and Kevin Ricca, are both graduates of WCAC schools. We're all from the year of 1994, and we just love the conference. We love the schools that we went to, and we want to give back to the conference and give back to the community. And so we decided to start this company, First Amendment Sports, and cover these games, who we think is the WCAC, in our opinion, is the best conference in the country as a high school conference, some of the best teams in the country, and we're just looking forward to calling games and being a part of it all again, and hoping that a lot of people who love football and know about this conference want to come check it out as well.
Well, I'm checking it out on your Twitter here right now. A lot of St. John's going on around there in the D.C. Beltway. And, hey, man, I hope it works out better for the Terps and the Redskins this year. You know what I mean? Like, I
have a lot of hope for the Terps. I don't know about the Redskins.
You have anything you want to say about that being you just threw your I'm a diehard. I love the Red. It's hard to love the Redskins. I mean, it's hard to love the Orioles right now.
I mean, I got a Ravens buddy, right in the suite next to me at work, and I can't stand to hear him talk about his inflated view of the Ravens. But he
could be worse. It could be a Steelers guy. You know what I mean?
Redskins. It's just but look at the difference in the two organizations. The biggest difference is the ownership. Bisciotti, first class. Redskins,
not so much.
So that's the biggest the thorn in the side of a Redskins fan. But I pull for the Ravens because of Bisciotti and all the connections to Maryland and everything. So they're my second team, but I could never ever give up my burgundy and gold ties and legacy. And I'm always going to hold on to that. And you can give me as much crap as you want. As soon as they're good again, I'll be back on talking crap right back.
Tim, if I can give Joe Theismann a hard time and John Riggins a hard time when I see him, and even Coach Gibbs, I'm going to give you a hard time about it. But I did this summer, I did a whole month of July of the history of me doing radio. It's 28 and a half years of all of these interviews and celebrities. And what I was really looking to do was Hall of Famers. So I found all of these baseball Hall of Famers for the Baseball Hall of Fame week because Messina went in. I found all of these football Hall of Famers. There were about 80 of them. I mean, a lot of deceased folks, Merlin Olsen and Deacon Joe, Joe Namath, just all these people I've talked to over the course of my lifetime. So I put it all on, and I found a tape of me talking to Daniel Snyder when he first bought the Redskins, and I was nationally syndicated at Sporting News. So I found a 15-minute conversation between me and a young, timid, sort of quietly professional Dan Snyder wanting to talk about how much he loved the Redskins and how he was going to revolutionize things. So 20 years later, it's an interesting 14 minutes of radio.
Things, just not the way that he thought he was going to.
Should have stuck to amusement parks, I think, is what he should have done.
Yeah, right. He should have screwed something else up, but...
I think that about Peter Angelo. So yeah, I agree, man. He should have screwed up some more restaurants or something around.
To show you my DC ties, I grew up an Orioles fan. I mean, I'm a beloved, Cal fan and Murray fan, and I remember going to those games. But when Nats came back to DC, I can remember my grandfather, my great uncle, and everybody talking about the Senators and all that. I see myself more as a DC, area guy, even though I live in the state of Maryland. But just on the line, I changed my allegiance. I'm a Nats guy. I can't stand the Orioles.
Every
I loved what they
Redskin fan
for me
did.
back
We
when I was a
don't.
kid.
I will say we
Love
don't
those
want
guys.
you. I mean, because
But I
like
had
it's
no
not.
problem leaving Angelos. None whatsoever.
I've had no problem leaving Angelos, and I live 2 blocks in the ballpark, Tim. So, hey, man, I love you. I appreciate you. And you know what? I hope I have to bother you more often. I hope I get to pump your podcast. I hope 2 weeks from now I got to say, hey, Tim, you want to talk about Penn State? So hopefully we get that going here the next 6 or 8 weeks because it's a lot more fun because I don't have the Orioles to talk about. You don't have the Redskins to talk about, although you're going to talk about them. It's always more fun when we have, more winning is good for everybody, I think.
I would love to do it, man. Always great to be on your show, and love all your listeners as well.
Pumping it up. Tim Strachan, T13 Strachan, radio color analyst, long time for the Terps, now in semi-podcast retirement, but still friends with Johnny Holiday and Mike Locksley. Great to have Tim on the program as the Terps put a little woodshed on Syracuse. I saw some journalism smack talk about the Merrill School of Journalism and Syracuse as well, so I thought that was the Newhouse School. I thought that was kind of fun as well. 63-20. Lay that on you, Syracuse. Take that. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports and beating up the Washington Redskins. It's fun that way.